If you're trying to make any kind of meaningful, effective change in your life, you've come to the right place. Hey, everybody, welcome back to We're Talking Shift. This is part 2 of a fantastic conversation that I started last week with Mr. Alec Zeck. So if you missed it, make sure you go back, listen to part 1 first, and then jump on back over here to part 2. You won't want to miss any of it. And so, without further ado, let's get going. So let's switch into the macro. Let's take that thread, gaslighting, narcissistic tactics, shall we say, the mind fuck of it all, and let's apply that to this invisible, supposedly invisible, indestructible boogeyman, called, I like to call it the COVID because I just can't honor it with a valid name. So whatever. And I'm not just, I'll say this again, as I've said on many other episodes, it's not that I don't believe that something is making people sick. Clearly there is. Clearly there are people getting sick, but this isn't about that. This is about how this is being used against people. And that is one of the things that I think is really just important to share some other perspectives and viewpoints on what some of us might perceive is actually going on, because unless you seek it out, unless you seek out the other information, it is, it's not coming across your TV. You have to be proactive, and a lot of people aren't. They're just willing to listen to the news and follow directions, and that's a dangerous thing, I think, right now. So, like, what do you see? All of the things, for example, that the experts, and I'm using air quotes for those of you that aren't watching this on YouTube, that they've been telling us, everything that they've been telling us, to do since the onset of this illness that's attacked the globe. It seems to me like it is all the opposite of what would make anybody healthier and able to get through this interesting challenge. And that's where I want to tie in, what do you think about the tactics and how gaslighting and narcissism plays into that initiative, shall we say?
Yeah. So from 2016 through now, I have looked into Western medicine and the pharmaceutical industry because of those two experiences with my wife and my mom, like so in depth, because I had so much cognitive dissonance myself. Like, how do these experts not know? Mm-hmm. So I already in 2019, I already had a good understanding of the pharmaceutical industry and their nefarious tactics. I had a good understanding of natural health principles and like what makes you healthy. I had a good understanding of narcissistic abuse, manipulation, gaslighting. And I remember having a conversation with my mom, my wife, and my sister, we went through all this shit for something. Like, I don't know what it is. And my mom had already started building a social media platform and presence, and my sister had as well, but like not to the degree that we have now. And I hadn't at all. I was just a dude who shared pictures of his kids and like other things. But having those three things, like a deep understanding of all three of them so well. Like, my son was already born. He was in 2009, in late 2019, he was 2.5 and completely unvaccinated. Like, and I'd already known all that stuff. Right. Then COVID hits and we have narcissistic abuse, manipulation, gaslighting be inflicted upon the entire population. We have the pharmaceutical industry is the perpetrator, the one doing it, using its bedfellows and government, the media, and what have you, the medical establishment. Mm-hmm. And then we have those who deeply, deeply, deeply understand natural health principles and what it means to truly be healthy, having their whole reality painted as like, you are the dangerous ones, you are the ones that are causing harm to people. And it was literally the same exact playbook as what I had experienced a couple of years prior, and then also when I was younger. This literally the same playbook again. And I got to a point, and I was a captain in the Army at the time in June of 2020, where I was like, all right, I have to speak. I can't shut up anymore. And it was very this is my going rogue story. So
okay, let's hear it.
so I was a captain in the Army, right? And for the majority of the time that I've been speaking and have, gained a lot of followers on social media and in podcast platforms, people to listen to what I have to say, up from between May and 2020, when I started speaking, through April, the end of April, really the beginning of May, actually, is like I got out of the Army April 30th. For a whole year of this past 18 months, I've been a captain in the Army. And I have been, up until the time that I got out of the Army, using very clever language as to not speak out directly against the government, but just always allude to the experts and the officials. But I never said the government because I couldn't while I was in the Army.
Sure.
Quick story on the going rogue thing. So when I created Health Freedom for Humanity, and we launched it in end of January, beginning of February of this year, it exploded, right? It exploded, and our podcast exploded, and we gained so much attention because we had this community of people outside of race, religion, political affiliation, socioeconomic background, gender, sexual orientation, just people, humanity, uniting under one common cause, the belief that every single person, the knowing that every single person has the right to choose what is best for their own health without coercion or force. Like, the fact that that's even controversial is crazy. Like, this organization, Health Freedom for Humanity, shouldn't even have to exist. But we exploded because I think it's because we were so good at dismantling that narrative that only super far right-leaning Trump supporters care about this. So we were a community, right?
Yeah.
People of all races, like all of it. And then in March, the end of March, beginning of April, The Guardian wrote a hit piece on myself and our organization. And they found out, because I was very clever not to disclose that I was in the Army. I didn't like parade it around. I like had a beard in my profile picture. That was very intentional, because I didn't like, you could find it if you wanted to. Like, if you really dug on Google, you could find my world-class athlete program bio from a couple years prior. And you could find out if you really wanted to, but I didn't parade it around. And this reporter contacted me, and he gave me a right to reply. Here's what I'm going to publish about you. You are spreading misinformation about this, this, and that online. You speak out against this. You're causing massive harm in people. And I was just like, I'm not going to reply, because he put in there, you are a former Army officer. And I was like, okay, he thinks I'm a former Army officer. Thank God. A week later, he replies to me again and goes, we have confirmed with the Army Public Affairs Office that you are currently serving as a captain. And I was like, oh my God, here we go. So I had 3 weeks left in the Army at this point, because I was already getting out. I don't agree with killing people. I don't agree with the wars that the Army fights. We don't need to get in that. But the point, in the direction that they're going with health, and like so coercive. And I had a religious exemption, and like there's rumors that they weren't going to honor it. But anyway, my boss's boss sends me a text message and says, dude, ... what's with me hearing from the Army Public Affairs Office that you're running a conspiracy theory anti-vax organization?
Oh my God.
And I was so scared, because just like the way that the narrative was going at the time, that they were painting people like us as like domestic terrorists already. Like, we knew that was coming.
Yeah.
But like, and then when the disinformation doesn't came out, I was like, thank God I'm not on that list. And I remember Ben Tapper texted me. He was like, dude, how are you not on this list? And I was like, I don't know. And I'm so happy right now, because if it came out that like an Army officer was involved with that, like they were already talking about it at Congress and whatnot. And like, there'd already been language being used in the Army of people who are skeptical of vaccines as, quote, insider threats. So like all this stuff, I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to get charged with Uniform Code of Military Justice action, go to jail. Like, I was so freaked out. And this was actually another element of my healing, because I was always so afraid of authority. And here I was again with another, like my authority, the Army, like having control over me. And I was like so freaked the fuck out that I was going to be thrown in jail or whatever. And God bless my wife, because like having to deal with me, like being emotional wreck, like on and off during that time period, was really tough. But it was when I finally released the fear of authority and like really stood in the understanding that like they don't have power over me. Like, I'm my own authority. Even if they had the presentation of authority over me, they're not an authority figure over me. And I only have a few weeks left, so let's just ride it out. So my commander texted me And I, replied very eloquently, like, hey, this is my authentic perception based on these experiences with my wife, my mom. And luckily, one of my really good friends, Pam Long, who writes for Children's Health Defense, was one of his West Point classmates. And she has a vaccine injured son, and he knows that. So I said, I also am very good friends with Pam Long, who has a vaccine injured son. We share, I bring doctors onto my show to share their perspective. That's what we do. And he basically was just like, just don't get in trouble again. Please just get the fuck out silently. Just do not cause any more issues. So that was my going rogue story. And it was, it was pretty scary, but
yeah. I mean, because seriously, going rogue means, you are doing something that is for you in some way, shape, or form risky. You're risking something important to you. And if you do it anyway, you're going rogue. And usually the whole point of a going rogue story is that even though you decided to do that challenging or risky action, you did it, maybe much to the disappointment and disapproval and warnings of others. You do it anyway, and it ends up to be the right decision. One of the best things that, could have happened to you, because it set you on a path that is the right path for you. Yeah. That's why we go rogue. That's why we follow that calling, that urge that you can't walk away from it. You can't stuff it away.
I could not speak because of what I had experienced in my life up to that point, when I saw so clear what was going on with COVID. And I will say, to be clear, initially in February, even before that, in January, I was following what was happening in China before it was even showing up on the mainstream, because I was really interested in health and whatnot. And I was looking on Reddit, and there was I fell for the propaganda of people falling dead in the street. I was like, oh my God. So I was one of the people at the very beginning, even though I was currently in my life adopting a very terrain theory based approach. And I didn't realize it, because my son, unvaccinated, when we first had him and he was unvaccinated, we were really scared to bring him around people. Then as he got older, he would lick things and lick other people and rub his face in the dirt and hands and never wash his hands. And he would never get sick. And I was like, it's really interesting. Maybe his immune system is just so strong, so the viruses and bacteria aren't going to harm him. And I have a completely different perception on that now. Yeah. But anyway, beginning of COVID, I full on fell for the propaganda, but because I had already, I guess, fallen for other types of propaganda before, and then was always forced to come back to okay, what am I actually feeling about this though? What am I observing and experiencing? After 3 weeks, when it quote hit the United States, and I continued to observe and stuff, and then I found some other videos of the community that I was already a part of, or at least following, so to speak, watching videos from Dr. Andrew Kaufman and others, and Kelly Brogan and even my mom, talking with her. I was like, this is it. And even so, I remember February of 2020, my wife and I looked at each other and we were like, this will be used to usher in mandatory vaccinations for all people without a question. We thought at the time it was going to be this deadly thing that was going to kill 50 million Americans. But obviously that's not the case. And there are people dying. COVID-19 is a real set of symptoms without question.
It's so important to me. I mean, health is my religion. Health is literally my religion. And it's what I coach around. And that's mental health, emotional health, physical health, and spiritual health.
I like you. I like you.
Thank you. I like you too, Alec. But that's it. It's that whole package. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about holistic health. It's the whole person. And it hurts my heart to see what is going on out there with so many people that have this blind faith in the people that they have ceded authority to over their health. I just, and maybe it's because, when I've been doing holistic health, and I've been a health nut, if you will, for 35 years. It's not a new trend for me. This is something been my whole adult life. And I've been working with people for 13, 14 years now as a coach. And I still I have clients that will ask me, what do you think? Should I get this? I can't tell you what you should do. I, I can only invite you to get as much information from different sources as possible, and then do what's right for you. If you decide it's right for you, God bless you, then you should do it. If you decide it's not, God bless you, then you should not. That's it. I just want you to have as much information as possible so that you can make a truly informed decision.
Yep.
And now, now here we are with people do not have an accurate understanding of literally what viruses are and do, what bacteria is and does. They don't know. Most people are not proactive about figuring it out, about doing some research. So they just give it up. And now we hear the bigger picture here to me is this is not about a virus. It's not about a flu. It's not about anything other than, to me, changing the way, at least in this country, that we live. It's changing the fabric of our ideology and our freedoms. And I think that you can't have a myopic look at this. You have to rise above this and look at everything that's happening at the same time, and have a bird's eye view of what's going on, and see that things that seem to be disconnected, to me, don't. I see one big connected web of things going on. I'm like, am I nuts? I don't think so, but I don't feel right about this.
100%. And I was thinking as you're saying this, is like relating it back to my experience when I was younger, how it's the same thing being played out in the collective right now. It's like you have this entity trying to get people to go against their own lived experiences and observations and blindly trust what they are saying, what the experts are saying. They want you to blindly believe them. And then you have this other side who's telling you, please don't blindly believe us. We want you to trust yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what's so crazy, is that people are denying their own observations and experiences and blindly trusting what these experts are saying, who just want to maintain control over them and really, in many ways, inflict harm upon them for profit and for more control and influence. But
yeah,
it was the same thing with my childhood, right? Or really, actually, for this last example, these last few years, where it's like I was blindly believing what my dad was saying, going against my own gut feeling, right? That gut feeling, when I brought it out and talked about it, I was shamed and shut down. Just like when anyone has any lingering, like, maybe this isn't what we think, then they approach their coworkers and they're like, hey, I think this might not be. And they're like, you're like, are you an anti-vaxxer now? Are you crazy? And then they shut down again. They go back into themselves. They shut down again. And they're like, okay, no. They're right. The experts are right. The experts are right. And then they're made to believe these people who are peaceful, loving, healthy, are trying to point you back to your own observations and lived experiences. And for the most part, don't self-identify with any of these like right-wing, like any of those stupid labels. Like, it is literally just about what's best for humanity, right? That's it. Those are the people that you've been conditioned to believe are the ones that are causing harm, and the ones that are evil and wrong and malicious. And at the same time, these people, at least in the crowd that you and I are in, we're very holistically minded, are the ones who maintain perpetual health this entire time without doing any of the things that the experts want us to do. It's the exact same thing, because I was made to believe, oh, my mom's crazy. Like, maybe she just does need to go into a long-term facility, even though my gut instinct was telling me something was wrong over here. And I like would speak about it, and it's like, no, how dare you? And I'm like, okay, come back into myself. And it wasn't until an experience happened to me again that I saw. And it's like, that's why I have compassion a little bit for the people that cannot see. Because had I not experienced what I experienced when I was younger, in these last 4 years and all of it, I don't know that I'd be able to see what's going on. I would still probably parentify these experts and like blindly trust what they say. So I think the most effective thing we can do is, yes, like give people access to both information, like both sides of the information spectrum in between. But the most important thing we can do is not approach them with those stupid labels that we identify with. Approach them human to human and say, look, I'm not telling you to trust me. And I understand that you perceive me to be this label, that label, that label. But I just want you to turn back to your own observations and lived experiences and stop identifying with your labels too. And I've actually had massive success in doing that. When I approach people like, you're a sheep, how can you not see what the fuck's going on? Like, here's this data, here's this statistic. The data, the stats, they're helpful to the people who are already seeking in that direction, or people who like, that's the way that their mind works. Mm-hmm. But the most effective thing is observations and lived experiences. And we've had legitimately a couple doctors now join Health Freedom for Humanity who could not see prior to, like at the beginning of this, thought I was a crazy anti-vaxxer, but I and many others continually pointed them back to their own observation and experience, said, please don't blindly trust me, but also don't blindly trust them either. Trust yourself. And now they see, they see what's going on. And that's like the best thing that we can do right now is point people back to themselves.
I could not agree more. And when we say that, we're like, trust, like you said, your own experience, trust what you're seeing, trust your intuition, trust if you've got questions and if you've got uncertainties, that's telling you something. That's telling you you need to learn more. It's telling you you need to investigate more. It's not, if it's not saying, absolutely, this is the best thing for you. If you're in that area of, I'm not sure, that's a clue. That is your, you've got to be able to trust your own knowing, your own intuition, your own gut, that thing that's telling you, I don't know about this. And then do yourself a favor and just learn a little bit more. But I think you're right. You don't help anybody, and you don't promote any sense of unity or harmony when you insult people that aren't thinking the same way. So calling people names, calling people, and it's hard because when you think that what you know and the way you're doing things is superior or the best way, or it's really, for your good for you, when you think that because it works for you, it's easy to slip into a little bit of that arrogance.
Yeah, it is. And it's like,
we have to guard against that.
Yeah,
Everyone needs to.
It is so important because like the whole point of this is not to get people to like blindly adopt what we want. It's like, no, you determine what's best for yourself. And I think more often than not, when you point people back to themselves and they begin doing that introspective work, one of those doctors that I spoke of, when I say she was full on allopathic, lives in New York City, loved Fauci, like full on allopathic, right? And over the past like month and a half, she's been texting me like, dude, I cannot believe this. Like will send me things that like I had already seen her, and actually some stuff that I hadn't seen. She's helping me find more information. But the point is she's having the experience of like, oh my God, right now, like the very like reality flipping upside down experience. And the whole point is, though, we're not wanting to get people to blindly adopt what we're like our way of life. The point is that everyone should determine what is best for themselves authentically, and then agree to never impose or infringe upon another person. It's very, very simple.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Just you do you. Respect, my freedom to do me.
Yeah.
And it's all good. I mean, hey, what do I know? Maybe 10 years from now, people are gonna be thriving, and there'll be a whole what the fuck do we know? So we've got to be willing. We've got to be willing to be open to what might be wrong, what might be right, what might be somewhere in between, and it might be different for everybody.
Exactly. And we've got to, again, I just want to reiterate that point, like stop approaching this from a label of I am this thing, I am that thing, for your own self, for your own understanding of who you are, but also in approaching other people effectively. I spoke at an event in Wisconsin this last weekend, And I started, or like halfway through my speech, I opened up with the story of my family's healing. And then halfway through my speech, I transitioned in talking about this subject right here of how to approach people. And I said, how many people in the crowd voted for Donald Trump? And everyone went, whoa. And then I was like, they had no clue where I was going with this. I was like, how many people thought Trump was going to come save us? And they were all like, yeah. I was like, how many people think those Democrats are evil? Blah, blah, blah. And like everyone went nuts. And I said, this is where I think you are wrong. And I'm not trying to tell you what is right or wrong, but this is where I think your approach is ineffective because you identify with that. And then you also think someone above you, someone out there in this world is coming to save you. You're actually perpetuating this system of tyranny. You need to approach people from human to human and stop looking at someone coming to save you the whole time.
Yeah.
That's the only way we get out of this is if we learn to individually save ourselves. And when we save ourselves and we show other people that we're saving ourselves, they are empowered to save themselves as well. That is how we get out of this.
Exactly. That's perfect. And that's what I preach to. We demonstrate. All you demonstrate. And then those that are ready and willing and feel like that's something that they want to model, then they will. And those who don't will do their thing. But you're right. You're right. We each need to focus on being our healthiest self, our best version of ourself, our most spiritually mature self. Do we have time to talk for a minute about health freedom for humanity? I really want people to.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know you've been on with me for a long time, so I want to make sure that
this has been a great conversation. I don't even know how long we've been on. Oh, we've been on for a while. Okay.
I know a while. We're knocking on the door of your 90 minutes. So
that's okay. That's okay. This is good.
Okay. Yeah. This is a good segue.
Yeah. So health freedom for humanity. I saw a need to show, like, really, really hit home the point that first off, this is a community of people, but it's also a community of people that exists outside of all those apparent labels, and that we're welcoming of all perspectives on health. I mean, one of those doctors that joined us got both doses of the vaccine, and that's her approach, and that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. But the whole premise of the organization is that we unite humanity under the belief, or the knowing, not the belief. We need to change that, honestly. The knowing that each person should be able to choose what is best for their own health without coercion or force. It's not about race. It's not about religion. It's not about socioeconomic status, political affiliation, gender, sexual orientation, or any of those other apparent divisions amongst us. It is about humanity. And in this is a fundamental, inalienable right for each and every one of us. And so we're expanding into a bunch of state chapters right now, into multiple countries as well. And we have sort of the headquarters, which is all what I like to say, I hate this word, but like the social media influencers and doctors and what have you, that are all a part of our organization. We want everyone to join us. Like, this should be a no-brainer. This is a fundamental and inalienable right for every single human being, and everyone is welcome to be a part of it. It's not an organization that's a top-down approach. It is a movement. It is a movement for all of us.
And you're doing, I guess, for lack of a better word, is like franchises. How are you in different states? Tell me, explain that a little bit for people that are very intrigued by this and want to understand how they can participate, other than, donating money is always awesome. But on another scale of active participation, what would that look like?
This is what's so cool about the way that we've set it up, in my mind at least, is that each of the chapters are very autonomous. We don't have like a directive, like, or we're not dictatorial in that, like, you have to do these things for your community. It's like, hey, we believe health freedom is a fundamental and inalienable right. We do not discriminate based on any of those divisions that I just listed out. We welcome everyone. You do what you think is best for your local chapter. And for the California chapter, that's looked like creating community, finding alternatives to school systems, like really getting a community of people together, hosting events together. They're looking into like really expanding and like essentially creating a system outside of the system rather than petitioning the system to change. And other states were doing other things, and it's going to be different and unique to the state's wants and needs, essentially.
Okay. That's amazing. I know I've talked to our a mutual acquaintance, Lauren Gertson. She's been on the show a couple times too. Yeah, and she's awesome. And I have keeping tabs on what she's doing over there in Washington with her Health Freedom for Humanity group. So got my eyes on that. I'm here in Cody, Wyoming, and like we are. It's like life is normal here, shall we say?
I'm so jealous of you right now.
You should
Have you ever
be,
seen
Alec.
the movie Legends of the Fall?
Oh God, like Pitt? A million years ago. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's
it
pretty
anymore.
old. But like ever since I watched that movie when I was really young, and I've been obsessed with it ever since. Like because I think it was either filmed in Wyoming or Montana, but like they live at the base of a mountain in a valley, and I've been like obsessed with that ever since I was younger. And I originally wanted to move to Gunnison, Colorado after I got out of the Army, but Colorado's gone full on, like, you know, so
yeah,
it's unfortunate. But all that
Wyoming's
to say, I'm very
awesome.
jealous.
We're still kind of, you know, I guess relatively speaking, it's still a little bit like the Wild West out here.
I love
we're
it.
We're just outside.
Maybe a year from now, I'll be your neighbor.
Yeah, come on out. I got some land. We've got it's a good place to be. And honestly, my husband and I, like every day, we're like, I'm so grateful we're living here. We always feel grateful we live here, but like more than ever during this, we have nobody is wearing masks here. We don't have people dying in the streets. You know, restaurants are open.
Are you serious? You don't have anyone dying? You guys aren't wearing masks though.
I haven't seen about it yet. I haven't heard about it. I haven't witnessed it. No, I mean, and I'm not going to say, you know, people haven't been affected and people aren't getting sick, but no, it's not very pandemic-y looking here. And life is, people are going about their business. In fact, tourism, this is a tourist town, is up like you would not believe here. And it's interesting to see not only this past 4th of July, but even last year, which was only what, a few months, March, April, May, June. So a few months after COVID, you know, lockdowns and all that stuff. Even then, we had our annual parade. People are shoulder to shoulder. Almost nobody, like 1 out of 100 is wearing a mask. It's very patriotic, and it was really especially good to see this year. People were out and celebrating and
so cool.
You know, being in community with each other, and it was all harmonious and supportive, and nobody was in a state of fear or, you know, conflict of any sort. It was very heartening to see. So yeah, come out anytime, come visit. I got plenty of room. But anyway, so okay, I want to I know you have quite a few different social handles because you keep getting whacked. We're going to put all of your current ones in the show notes, but if you want to share a couple of main places to send people right now before we sign off, please feel free.
Yeah, I actually have to say a funny joke real quick first, because my Instagram account that I have right now is like listed as a grocery store. I don't have my name on it anywhere just so I don't get deleted. And people aren't sure if it's me because now I'm using Daniel Alexander, which is my Daniel Alexander Zeck is my full name, and I've always gone by Alec. But people will come onto the account and say, "Hey, is this Alec Zeck's account?" And then I'll say, "Alec Zeck has never been isolated or proven to exist."
I love it. Awesome. Hey,
so I'm very obscure about it on purpose though, because I don't like if you know, it's like that. If you know, you know.
Right.
But anyway, my Instagram account is @_Al, so AL, and then another underscore, and then Boogie, BOOGIE, old nickname when I played basketball, and then another underscore. So Al underscore Boogie underscore. My Twitter is Alec_Zeck. And then my Telegram, really building that up quite a bit, just because I keep getting deleted everywhere else, is t.me/the way forward. And forward is spelled FWRD. It's not spelled like that. It's FWRD, but that just with FWRD. So.
Okay. And again, we'll put all those in the show notes so that people who are like trying to what was that underscore? What was that? It's a lot.
Grocery store. What?
Right. I didn't get that. All right, cool. So we'll add that. So any final words that you want to share with everybody before we sign off?
I think the more that we identify with I am the body instead of just I am, just like be open. I am, which like leads you to be like everything and also be one thing, right? Like all things are connected. The more we identify with I am the body, then that's when we start attaching labels to that and start self-identifying with those labels and start viewing this world as I'm separate of those things that I'm interacting with, rather than when you come back to I am, and that is consciousness, the universe, an aspect of God, whatever you want to call it, you're able to actually approach your life in a way that you realize there's nothing out to get you. It's only when human beings create the perception that they are separate that they start acting in defense of or on the offense based on that belief of separation and start harming each other. When we understand that nature, and we are fundamentally a part of that, that's not something that we are separate of. When we remember that we are fundamentally a part of nature, and we start understanding that nature lives in a symbiotic fashion with itself in an interdependent relationship, we can approach this life in a much more harmonious fashion. And I think I'll leave it at that.
That's beautiful. I love it. You're gonna have to come back, and we're gonna have to just talk spirituality, metaphysical spirituality. I think we could have a really fun convo about that, huh?
Yeah, I actually didn't bring this up at all. And there's a book that was life changing to me that I could go so in depth on. So I'll have to come back. It's called The Law of One.
Ooh, I love it. I love
That was
it.
during my
Yeah.
childhood trauma healing. I started reading that, and it was so transformational for me.
Okay, cool. I'll pick it up. I've got a bunch of them, but I'll pick that one up, and then I'll hit you back up, and we'll talk about it.
Awesome.
All right, everybody, that is going to be a wrap for us. Please make sure to check out Health Freedom for Humanity and all of the other good things that Alec is doing in the world. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, so you don't miss any of the good shift being shared here. Share it. And until next week, stay feisty, my friends. Stay healthy and kind, and go make some epic shift happen in your lives. And that goes for you too, Mr. Gary V.